What's up, everybody? Welcome to another dope episode. This week is going to be fun.
Yes.
This week is going to be really dope. It's going to be a start of a series that we're doing on Chicago food history.
Yes.
Daunting task, but if anybody's up to it, it's us. Anyway.
Yeah, so in this first episode, we're going to talk about why Chicago is an important... Well, the question is, why is Chicago an important food city? And in this first episode, we're speaking to two very important food people in the city that are going to share some really cool facts about the origins of food in Chicago, basically.
Yeah, right. And honestly, this is dope. Like, first we were like, what the hell? What are we going to do? But now... Look at Siri. Look at Siri's
I know, I'm
ass.
trying to be in the conversation.
But now we're like, okay, we got direction.
Yeah.
Speaking of direction, we're walking to or in one of the most diverse zip codes in all of the country,
Right.
60625. We are in Albany Park.
Yep.
We told you about this. Go back and follow that right there or right there.
And it's such an important zip code because you really can eat around the world in Chicago, and a lot of people say that. A lot of community areas claim that. So this is one community area where you really
Can do that.
can knock off a few countries.
Yeah,
you know
right.
what I mean? Because it's so diverse.
And that's what we plan on doing. So come on, let's go to the first stop.
Let's get it.
First of all, follow us on social media, all platforms, 77 Flavor Shy. We haven't said that in a few episodes. So
Do it.
Do it. But, damn, not the finger gun.
But we just got out of our first stop in Albany Park. We went to Dulce de Leche Cafe right here on Lawrence.
Boom, boom, bow.
It was
Fantastic.
amazing. Yeah, so Dulce de Leche is a family-owned business. They started out like 2 weeks before the pandemic.
Yeah.
It was 3 siblings, their wives and children.
Everybody working.
They basically ran this space through the pandemic until they could actually like hire more people.
Yeah.
And the food is just incredible. They combined 3 things that they love: Mexican food, crepes or crepe or whatever the fuck you want to call it, and coffee.
Yeah. And they do all of them very, very well. You know what I mean? Like they to the point that we just said, hey, blindly give us.
Surprise us.
Dealer's choice.
Yeah.
They came out, we had the 2 drinks.
We had the 2 coffees.
Yeah.
We had the Nutella latte, and then I had the lavender latte.
Hey, let me tell you, we sipped those with ease. Quick. And then we transitioned immediately to the food.
Yeah.
Which
we had
was
a croissant. A chocolate croissant.
That chocolate croissant slapped.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What else did we have?
We also had their famous bread pudding.
Yes.
Dulce de Leche bread pudding.
Hold on, that bread pudding, y'all. Come on, man.
It was insane.
It's never too early for ice
It's kind
cream.
of like a really thick. Think of like a really thick French toast with ice cream on top.
Thick.
Strawberries, bananas, whipped cream.
All that thick.
Dulce de Leche.
Thick with whipped cream, ice cream, all that.
That was
That was fantastic.
so good.
And then we had the chilaquiles. Oh my goodness.
Amazing.
With the carnitas. Y'all, let me tell you.
Cannot. You can't miss those.
This is a food heavy episode because we're talking about the history of food.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, we're on our way to our next stop here in Albany Park. But while we're on the way there, you're going to check out our conversation we had with Howard, who is an instructor, professor from DePaul, who talks about like the history of Chicago food and when it comes to immigrants and like indigenous.
How important Chicago is.
So y'all go ahead and listen to that. We on our way to the next restaurant and we'll catch you after that is done. This is how diverse Albany Park is. Look at everybody. Come on over here. Look. Hey, welcome to the podcast.
Well, I'm at DePaul University, and I direct this center, the Stain Center, which is a community engagement center for the institution, for the university. But I also teach and do research with students, mainly on food in Chicago and in a couple of other places as well. and increasingly beyond Chicago. And I've also done a lot of archival and historical research on Chicago and its food system. So I'm happy to tell you whatever you would like to hear about that.
We want to know everything.
To the degree to which I know, because
Yeah.
I didn't do it alone. And it's also with my co-author Daniel Block at Chicago State
So
University.
let's talk about the chapter you just mentioned. You were talking about a chapter that talks about the effect of
Industry and immigrants and
Sure. Well, in thinking about Chicago and food, it goes back to the very beginning of the city itself, and even pre-Chicago. So the book that we put together, Daniel Block and I, begins really with an understanding of Chicago as a food city, but kind of quickly moves into sort of the indigenous groups that inhabited this space until 1833, and the kinds of foods that they produced and distributed and consumed. And really the indigenous practices lie at the foundation of Chicago as a food city, really. Especially grains.
yeah.
But also some things that perhaps we've lost touch with, in addition to our many prairies that became grain-producing farms
Yeah.
and are still today.
Yeah.
Mostly today corn and soy.
Right.
But
I was going to say my most miserable years were spent in cornfields, surrounded by cornfields. So yes.
fair enough.
College is what she's talking about.
I went to Illinois State, so it was
Yeah.
just I want to say it's corn,
It is
right?
corn
Yeah.
and soy.
Corn and soy, just everywhere.
So that's, getting into the central Illinois and the Illinois Valley, some of the most fertile land in the country. Essentially, those prairies became farms with white settlers in
Right.
the mid 19th century.
Right.
yeah.
Is the soil the fertility comes from the fact that it was like swampy? Is that
So I'm not going to be able to give you a lot on the geology and ecology of those prairies, but I will tell you, because that's not my area of expertise, but I will tell you that the Illinois has one of the best watersheds because of the Great Lakes and because of the
right?
makes
aftermath
sense,
of the sort of ice age, and which is essentially the Great Lakes.
Right.
10,000
Right,
some
that
years
does make
ago, and the
sense.
melting of the glaciers. And so we have a real treasure here, right? 20% of the world's fresh water.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Wait, the Great Lakes is 20% of the world's fresh water?
Yes.
Yeah, you didn't know that?
Man, look, I did not pay attention like I should have. Wait, what?
Yeah.
That's why it's called the Great Lakes.
I mean,
Oh,
they're
okay.
huge. I feel like that's why when people talk about how, oh, sure, you have beaches in Chicago, they don't understand that Lake Michigan is like a lot. Just because it's a lake doesn't mean it's small. It just means it's fresh water.
Right. That's
Very large.
Man, I really should have paid attention a lot more. Like, learning now as an adult is way more fun than
Yeah,
as a
right,
kid.
because you're actually interested in the things you're
I'm
learning
very
about.
interested in
Yeah.
this. We got to talk about this later. But yeah, no, keep on going. That's interesting.
So the indigenous populations that lived here over thousands of years, right, since the glacier receded and people came down from the north and started settling here. Now, Chicago was not a very friendly place to settle in. I mean, let's think about it for a second. Summers, let's just start with that.
Right.
Swampy
Yeah.
place, hot, steamy,
Right.
mosquitoes,
Horrible.
the whole thing, right? And then winter, right?
Right. Just very harsh.
Just harsh with the lake effect,
Yeah.
weather that we get here. So people aren't really settling in mass
Right.
along the southern tip of Lake Michigan.
Right.
But they are when it comes especially to when they get pushed around because of various conflicts, especially when the Europeans start to conflict with each other over fur trade and all their,
Right.
other sort of
Right.
issues of power. So there's actually some of the groups that were here when Europeans arrived were refugees. Some of the first people who lived, some of the people who lived here when the Europeans arrived. The first people who lived here were prehistoric.
Right.
And there's a lot of, information in the book on that as well. But the people who lived here, they knew how to produce and store food over winter in pits. They dug pits, whether it was legumes or seeds or other kinds of, and eventually corn.
Yeah.
Right.
So corn comes up from Central America to Illinois, first around the beginning, first century, 70 AD, around that time.
Wow.
To Illinois, and eventually comes north.
Right.
But there are other products that the indigenous population was creating. There's a whole span of different foods. Perhaps one of the most interesting ones that I was going to say we've lost touch with is from our forests that we also had intermixed here in deciduous trees that produce nuts.
Right.
And so there was a whole nut industry, perhaps one of the biggest industries across northern Illinois.
Really?
Not so much along the coast, Lake Michigan, but and to some degree, yes, but especially up as you go farther north in current Illinois and southern Wisconsin.
Wow, that's
They're all the major, not only just acorns and from oak, but hazelnuts and other types of nuts.
Yeah.
wow. So I'm glad you said that, because I was going to ask what isn't as prevalent now as it was. You know what I mean? And I had no clue. I think that's the first time we've heard nuts.
Like a nut industry.
Yeah.
Well, the indigenous populations across mainly northern and central Illinois, southern Wisconsin, currently, today what we would call that, they didn't exist as states during that time, but there was whole nut production industries.
Wow.
They actually had a type of nut meat that is spoken about in the archaeological literature. I'm sure they didn't call it meat, but it was a type of protein that was stored and packed for distribution, and especially during the winter months, it was really important.
OG vegan food.
Yeah.
OG vegan food. Yeah.
Perhaps. I might think about it that way. It became very clear that removing the prairies and cultivating grains was going to be lucrative. And so, let's see, I think one of the things I was going to mention was that, just a fact, just kind of give you a sense, just in the 1830s, in 1838, the first shipment of grains, of wheat, went out of Chicago, and it was 3,670 bushels out of the port of Chicago, right?
Wow.
And the next year, it went from 3,670 to 628,000.
So double.
bushels.
What do you mean double?
No, more.
I mean,
Yeah, and so
600 is almost a million.
So by mid-century, it was 2 million.
Jesus.
Wow.
And so Chicago was well on its way to becoming this place for centralizing grains from across the prairies in the Midwest, especially to the west.
That's crazy.
Across Illinois, across Iowa, and so forth. And so one of the key figures in that process was the first mayor of Chicago, William Ogden.
Yo, now that was dope conversation with Howard.
Right.
That's amazing.
Didn't we learn so much from that?
Yeah, we learned a lot. We learned a lot from that link, and there's more. So we
more.
cut it off, Wednesday, if you were watching this on Monday, there's a part 2. And if you are not watching this on Monday or after Wednesday, click the link right here or wherever in the corner. But fantastic, awesome interview. But right now we are at the bakery, the Nakwan Korean Bakery.
Yeah, buddy.
And we stopped in to get some. What do we get?
Well, we got a couple things, but this is, I can't pronounce it, but it looks like it's almost like a rice ball.
Yeah.
So it's sweet rice, red bean paste, sugar, salt, and water.
Yeah. Sugar water.
Are the ingredients. Almost like a mochi ball.
Like a mochi ball, yeah.
I think.
So we're gonna try that right now.
All right.
Cheers.
Ding. Literally like a mochi.
Yeah.
With red bean paste.
A little tough, like chewy.
Yeah, like mochi.
Ain't mochi like? Man, I'm not thinking the right thing. This is good. This stuff on the inside,
It's
sweet.
red bean paste.
Oh, that's good.
It's not too sweet, so it's like
No.
perfect.
This is good. All right. This is our second round of sweets that we done had. It is time to have actual lunch, dinner, whatever you want to call it.
Oh, there's our bus.
No, good. We'll be here for a little bit longer. We're gonna catch our bus and meet you at the dinner spot.
Yeah, buddy.
Let's get it.
Let's get it. Alright, so we are at our final stop. We are already full.
Already full, been eating all day. Like,
So this is a Persian/Mediterranean restaurant here in Albany Park called Kabobi. And we got a little bit of everything. We got the vegetarian platter that has a cucumber yogurt salad. It's similar to tzatziki salad. All across the Mediterranean, people make the same salad in different variations.
Yeah.
The Persian one has dill in it. Persian people love dill. Pretty much everything has dill in it. It also has baba ganoush, hummus, what we call a Jerusalem salad, or it's a cucumber, a tomato salad, some falafel, and a couple of these stuffed grape leaves right there. So good.
yeah, buddy.
But the star.
Let's dig into that first. I wanna
You
eat
want to try
that.
some of this?
Yeah, I wanna try that.
Okay. You want to try this?
Yeah, let's get it. Oh, should I just go ahead and
Yeah.
bite the whole thing?
Fuck it up.
Citrusy?
I've made that before,
You
so
have?
you've had it before. The falafel is also pretty good. It's a nice.
Give me some of that. Let me get some of that falafel.
Everything comes with fresh. Everything comes with fresh, warm pita. Usually, I wouldn't eat this salad that comes with it. I wouldn't eat it by itself. I would eat this salad with rice, and that's how we normally eat it. The tzatziki sauce, I usually would put olive oil on it, and then I would eat it with pita bread. That's what that is. Same thing with the hummus and the baba ganoush. You eat it with pita bread, like a little dip. You want to dig into the rice and the meat?
Heck yeah.
All right, so we got 3 different things. We got chicken, filet mignon,
Filet mignon, y'all. It looked the same, but I've never had
shish taouk filet mignon
filet mignon like that.
on a skewer.
On the skewer.
And then we got lamb kebabs, which I'm going to hold this up so you can see how
Oh,
long.
look at that. That's what she said.
That's a long kebab.
Yeah, buddy.
Normally you get a kebab that's good for one person. This is enough for 2 people. And then it comes with rice. You can choose what kind of rice you want. I got dill. Dario got half dill, half white. The plate is lined with bread.
Yeah. Let's smack.
Let's try the rice.
You trying the rice. Let me try this filet mignon.
Amazing.
What that rice hitting for us? It tastes good?
Per usual.
Going crazy?
Incredible.
So.
Also, the rice, you're supposed to put the butter on the rice, by the way.
Are you? I know. Let me show y'all this filet mignon, boy. Look at that.
Delicious.
Ooh, got it medium. I don't know if y'all can see.
You're gonna love this.
Oh my God.
Juicy lamb. Good? I want to try it.
Y'all, my life forever different.
Isn't it so good?
That's so
I love
good.
this place.
Let me try this lamb. You just said, Oh, you said I'm
wow.
gonna love it. Yeah, that filet mignon going crazy.
It's so good.
It's so good, so tender.
Yeah.
This lamb looking good. Oh yeah.
Isn't that
The
amazing?
seasoning.
It's so good.
Oh my God. Y'all.
Yeah. It's
That is
so good.
that's fire.
Right?
You almost don't even need the hot sauce. You know I like hot sauce in my stuff.
So this is not regular hot sauce. This is shutta, so it's like a tomato-based hot sauce. It's really spicy. You've had it in Jordan.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's that same.
I'm gonna go ahead.
It's not watery like hot sauce is
Go
normally.
ahead and put something on the table real quick.
Yeah.
Put some sauce on the table. What's wrong with me today?
I don't know.
Why am I?
Why are you? All right, so we're gonna enjoy our lunch dinner.
Yep. Lunch dinner.
And while we do that, we also interviewed Monica, who is a journalist with WBEZ. She has been studying food journalism for decades, or working in food journalism for decades. She's a great resource, and we talked to her about her new book, and then some more knowledge on the source of or the origins of some foods in Chicago. So we'll let you listen to Monica. We'll eat a little bit, and we'll be right back.
Sure. My name's Monica Eng, and I am the co-writer at Axios Chicago. Before that, I was a longtime food writer and reporter at the WBEZ, Chicago Tribune, Chicago Sun-Times. Well, and I'm also the co-author of Made in Chicago, 30 delicious hometown bites. Yep. Stories behind that. It comes out in March. I better start remembering the name.
Yeah, got to plug it right. Yeah.
Yeah. And then one of the places that you are talking about is the place that we went to today, which is Home of the Hoagie. We've been to Home of the Hoagie before for one of our episodes, so if you've listened to it before, we've been there. But you taught us a lot that we didn't know. Like, we went in and we got the food because people were like, "This is the best hoagie in the city."
Yeah.
And then,
I can definitely vouch for this.
Yeah. And then today, we went in because okay, first of all, this sandwich, I don't even know. I've talked so much shit about Italian beef. Because I was like, who wants soggy meat? But literally,
This is not really.
it's not an Italian.
Yeah. That's it.
This goes by 3 different names. It was called the Supreme Steak when it was first invented. It's sometimes called a Steak Supreme. Sometimes it's called the Sweet Steak or Steak Sweet, or at Home of the Hoagie, just the steak sandwich, meal on a bun.
So
Meal on a bun.
yeah, and everybody knows about it. I mean, you go in there, it's a packed line. It's a packed house. You
Opens, it's fine.
you got there before we did. We were like, oh, we're gonna be on time. 2 minutes, not bad. You know?
Time that I've been there at 10:30 and there's already a line. It doesn't open until 11.
That's crazy.
That people line up at 10:30. We came later. It was open already.
11 open.
Yeah. Wow.
Why'd you pick it? Why'd you pick Home of the Hoagie?
Because I think you can argue that this steak sandwich is the most Chicago sandwich in the city. And that's because it incorporates elements of sandwiches that you really only see in Chicago. So it's got a steamed bun, a la the hot dog.
Yep, hot dog.
It's got 2 slices of tomato and sweet bright green pickle relish, a la the hot dog.
Mhm.
It's got hot and sweet peppers with giardiniera, just like an Italian beef. Oh my gosh.
Look at that.
It's got grilled onions and American cheese like a big baby.
Mhm.
And then it's also got meat that is chopped ribeye, which is similar to the Italian beef. Oh, and sorry, mild sauce, another super Chicago thing. And they're all in one bun. You don't have anything else that brings together all those very, very Chicago aspects on one sandwich.
And honestly, so when we talk about the history of Chicago food, you briefly touched on how important it is because this encompasses everything we as Chicagoans, we love to eat. When you talk about Chicago food, where are we at in Chicago's food history? Because we talked briefly, standing in line. How important is Chicago food history?
Briefly, it was like an hour long.
Yeah, right, yeah.
I think Chicago food history is really important, and you see it on the plate, and you start the book by saying It's simmered into every single dish. There are 100 stories if you sniff hard enough or if you dig hard enough. And there are, we love it, we eat it, we stick it in our mouth. But boy, there's a lot of great history behind it. And I think it makes the dish more interesting to eat. And I think it tells you a lot about the waves of immigration, German, Jewish, Greek, African American. And today, a lot of the fast food innovations are being done by Egyptian, Palestinian, and Pakistani and Jordanian restaurant owners on the south side.
So it's really cool because Chicago's almost going through another phase of creation, because a lot of German, Jews, blacks, Mexicans and Latin, they were kind of like the forefathers, so to say, of Chicago food. But now, you talk about Egyptians, Palestinian, that's not something you hear in Chicago.
You don't know that those babas that you see are often, or a lot of the sub places, Super Sub, or Stony Sub, a lot of Palestinian, Pakistani.
Yeah, and they're very distinct foods, and we kind of we do this obviously this food history podcast, but recently one of these ridiculous articles basically said Chicago was a flyover city when it came to food, and that's what prompted us to kind of dive into. All right, let's kind of set the record straight. Chicago food is here to stay.
Yeah.
What do you?
On the high end, obviously you've got Oreo, you've got Alinea, you've got whatever next, and there's so much innovation going on there. But then on the sort of more pedestrian, everyday person, and you've got incredible foods that people are just discovering, of course, because of their Italian beef now.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, that's so crazy.
That's one of the top 3 things that you know about Chicago.
Well, I remember my ex-husband, he's from New York and he's Italian, and he sees this thing called Italian beef. He's like, what? What is this? It's an Italian food? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
He's so offended nothing about it is Italian.
Yeah. So I think Chicago is so important. And, a lot of what we have has to do with our stockyard past. There was a lot of beef here. There were a lot of beef byproducts here, and people needed to know what to do with them.
And I was going to say, it's really like what used to be the industrial parts of the city that have, I feel like, the most creative foods, because like we talked, different groups were almost forced to use the scraps of what was left over to create these delicious dishes, and then it ends up being like rib tips.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Can you imagine not having rib tips? I want to talk a little bit more about that as to how important is that to the history of food in Chicago is.
Right. And so I say that a lot of the things that were invented, we invented because we had the stuff around. We wanted to use what was available to us and what was cheap. So you had rib tips. Everybody wants this beautiful square rack of ribs. Well, that's not how ribs are. Right. There are these tips, these gnarly bits that you cut off. They used to be just served to the cooks. And then Miles Lemon was like, let's try serving these to people. And they're like the most delicious bit. Yeah. And then you have chicken wings, gampong chicken wings in Korean, ethnically Chinese Korean restaurants that have just gone all over the nation. That didn't start as wings until in Chicago, one of the restaurateurs in the early 80s was like, they're throwing away these wings. They're selling for like $2 a pound. Let's just make this dish with wings. And suddenly it took off. Now wings are the most expensive kind when you go pound for pound. The Italian beef at weddings, at Italian weddings, they didn't have enough money to serve everybody food. If you shaved it really, really thin, put in a lot of juice, and then put it in bread, and the bread didn't even have to be super fresh because you're soaking it with milk. You can make that go a long way. Yeah.
We actually talked to Chris. Talked to him. He told us how it started. You all can check out the link right there. But it's really cool. You talk about how many things Chicago started, and we know out of history. out of necessity is kind of how they started. But we come up with some really cool things. Italian beef being one of them. This hoagie sandwich being one of those. We got the Hibarito. That is something that is from Chicago, and how we kind of fashioned the Euro. So there's so many different things when it comes to the history of Chicago food for us to be not a flyover. What else have we created? Have we started?
The pizza puff. A lot of people think the pizza puff was that's just in someone's freezer. No, that was so. So it was Jewish and Armenians had the push carts with the hot dogs. And with hot dogs, you always have the corn roll tamale.
Yeah.
So there was an Armenian guy who had who sold push cart equipment to people.
Yeah.
And the guy, there was a guy who couldn't pay his bills, and he actually died. And so the widow gave him their tamale recipe.
Wow.
Tamales. The family had something called El Taco, the Illinois Tamale Company. And the family was, delivering tamales to hot dog stands all over the city. And the hot dog stands were like, these pizzerias are killing us. How can we find a way in hot dog stands to compete with pizzerias? So the tamale makers, who were Armenian, of course, said, let's see what we can do. So they took a flour tortilla and some pizza ingredients. They wrapped it up. They said, a lot of our hot dog vendors have deep fryers. Let's see if we deep fry this. And what do you know? Pizza puff was made.
Wow.
That's how a pizza puff.
Wow.
That's why it's made by a company called Il Taco. Why is it called Il Taco? Illinois Tamale Company. Because they were originally, they made those corn roll tamales.
Wow.
And it was like, they're trying to solve a problem. What do we have around us? We've got a tortilla, we've got some cheese, we've got some sauce. Let's make this.
That is. This podcast
Wow.
never. We always are amazed at stuff like I would have never guessed that story. That could have been a Jeopardy question. I would have been like, yeah,
In the new
Right.
book,
Yeah, there
made
you
in
go.
Chicago.
there you
Yeah.
go. Plug. I love it. That's how. So in your book, you talk about a lot of these things. Obviously, you have a world of experience, years of decades of experience. There's more secrets and things like that.
Yes, like how Chicago. So Euros was in. So you could argue that Alexander the Great invented Euros.
Yeah.
But then when Turks moved to Greece, they started having these cylindrical things like doner, which is in Turkey, and shawarma. And then when they moved to Chicago in the 60s, a lot of Greeks, they started taking ground meat and like packing it and then trying to serve it as this thing that they had in Greece that was pork based. But they started taking meat, beef and lamb, and just packing it on. And it sort of worked until this one guy said, well, why don't we, instead of having every restaurant try to make their own trombas, let's say in Spanish, or their own spits, we'll make it for you. And this became all the biggest Euros companies in the United States, or right here in Chicago. A lot of them have merged because they said, let's do it when we make it for you, and we bring it to you.
Wow.
It was 3 different Greek families. One sort of perfected the electric rotisserie. One perfected kind of mass producing these things, no longer having to get a strong guy to stack each one, but basically making like a meat milkshake that you could pour into this cone mold, cook it, and it's sort of pre-cooked, and you're no longer having to get like either whole muscle meats and stacking that, or even ground. It just, you pour the slurry in there and they cook it.
This
That allowed Euros to go everywhere. No longer did you have to have this skilled guy who could build these things in your kitchen. You could mass produce them.
Immigrants, they
I'm
could get
That's right.
Chicago built on it. Like Chicago is literally built on immigrants.
yeah, that's amazing.
Wow. So I would say, where is the history of Chicago food going? That's a crazy question. Where do you see it?
Well,
Yeah, right. It can't.
future.
Right. Where's the future?
It's interesting. We were just talking to a guy from Hoagie, and also the father, Ed Perkins Sr., who invented this, his son is a vegan too. And so I think, wow.
A vegan made some of the best.
And I'm like, you've been making these beef sandwiches? And he's like, yeah, on a bet. My friend said I couldn't be a vegan for a month when I was 14.
Bet.
Yeah. He said I couldn't do it for a month. And now he's 40 and he's still doing it. Wow.
I think I was gonna say I really think we're moving towards a more sustainable plant. I don't want to say plant-based, fully plant-based, but I think there's a lot of focus on plants being the main ingredient of a dish, and then other things being like you can have like bacon crumbs on it or something like that. But I think we're really moving towards more, and that allows for more creativity because how can you layer flavor with just vegetables?
Exactly.
Chicago will find out.
Mhm.
We'll figure out a way to do it.
Yeah.
So the son was telling me he wanted to make it with walnuts. And then here at Home of the Hoagie, they were doing it impossible, which I guess is controversial in some areas, but
Yeah, right.
it's an option.
Yeah, right. Different podcasts.
But Chicago's food history has been very meaty, and so maybe we're going to be moving toward more plant-based foods too.
So,
I have a feeling that we are. All right,
Well,
well,
Monica.
we're going to finish our food.
Yeah, we're gonna finish eating. Y'all go grab Monica's book when it come out. One more time. When does the book come out?
It's out March 21st, U by Press. It's called Made in Chicago. I believe it's S23UIP for 30% off when you buy it. Oh, wow.
Okay.
Wow.
We'll include all of that in the description
yeah,
if you're
we'll
watching
get
on YouTube or in our podcast description.
Secret code on there. Okay.
The autograph. That's what I just want the autograph. Hey, first of all, Monica got that new book coming out. Y'all make sure y'all go ahead and support that. We'll be at the book launch coming up. You'll see that, I'm sure. But Monica's so smart. She it took us back to our old place that we like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's so good to be back at home with a hoagie. Y'all need to try that. I promise you.
Yeah, it's
that
amazing.
sweet beef going crazy.
But be there 2 hours before opening.
Yeah, for real. Shit. But we will continue to eat. And let me tell you, look at the chicken. Look at the chicken. Oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
Mediterranean chicken don't miss.
Ever.
Ever. This food was good.
Yeah, I hope you like this episode.
This is a part 1
Yep.
of the series.
Yes. Don't forget to check out Wednesday for the full interview with Howard.
Don't forget that. Also, come here to Kabobi.
Come to every place we went to.
All of them,
All
yeah.
of them have been great. Albany Park is a treasure, so you really can't miss it. Just walk into a random place; it'll probably be great.
Yo, this filet mignon going crazy.
Yeah.
Until next time, y'all. Peace, love, and filet mignon grease. Yo.
We are out at the beginning of St. Patrick's weekend, and we are here at the media night for Guinness.
Guinness, yeah.
Is that how you pronounce
It's a brand new brewery about to open up in Chicago. Go figure.
Right, so they're in at City Hall is the name of the location that they're at. It's huge, so we can't wait to check it out.
Let's go see what's up. Yo, it's lit in here. They going off right now. Hold on. I don't know if you can hear it, but every time we say it, you can hear us. But y'all gotta come check out the Guinness Open Gate Brewery right here in the West Loop. It's dope as hell. The vibe is crazy.
Yeah.
When it open up, it's gonna be crazy. This summer, y'all. Stay tuned, man. We gave you a sneak peek, man. Until next time.